what are the most common ways that you've seen that we avoid grief?
Absolutely. And I want to say also that many of the experts I've talked to, including Mary Frances O'Connor, will say avoidance is a beautiful tool for safety for as long as it's meant to be used. You know, when something's too new, it can be such a beautiful, wonderful thing. And then it's up to us to kind of sign up to commit to really honor everything around that avoidance and what we're avoiding in a safe and healthy way with peer support or professional support. But I think the most common, which we've all seen, is either throwing yourselves into something as a major distraction, or the vices that we all know well about. I mean, I think this type of unbearable pain and feeling can lead to a lot of addiction and a lot of mental health issues if not tended to. You know, so we see that a lot. It's incredibly difficult if you're someone like me, where your avoidance tactic is being celebrated culturally. The more I achieved, the more things I was doing at once. Like, I mean, it was just so much, running a startup while producing a movie, while writing a book, and everyone's applauding it. And you're going, I'm just making sure I'm never here for a moment to deal with that pain in my chest. You know, it's that part of it can be tricky. And that is something that we don't look at as often, that sort of the overachieving, like all of those vices are also things that we're using to avoid our grief. And so we have to extend the invitation to people who are succeeding, quote unquote, for those who are just listening, to also sit down and take a moment and honor what's really there for them.
There's this article that I saw in the Washington Post that we're going to put in the chat and make sure is also in the show notes of our podcast. That was fascinating. And you'll see the link to the article, those of you who are here live, pop up here at the bottom of the screen. It says, avoidance, not anxiety, may be sabotaging your life. And how avoidance might be a quick fix, but it comes with a heavy cost. And I find this so fascinating, Addison, this article that the Washington Post did. So many people, especially now at this time, we speak about, I know I even speak about sometimes of like being stressed or being anxious, or as we're dealing with grief, like we feel like, oh, like I'm just so off. And we then are trying to treat the anxiety, right? We're trying to treat whatever it is that's coming up that's feeling disruptive to us. But what the article said is the part of it, I want you all to actually look at this photo again, the avoidance of the emotions, the avoidance of what's painful, the avoidance is actually what's creating the anxiety and the stress, not the experience that you should be having, or, you know, that you're thinking you need to avoid. And so I think this is so valuable with what we just talked about, is like a lot of the pain that comes from grieving actually comes from us avoiding grief, more so than the experience of the grief itself. Because what we know from much of the science is allowing ourselves to experience grief actually makes us feel better. Allowing ourselves to cry and process the emotions is what actually makes us feel better, more than trying to push it away.